Welcome everyone. TSI wishes you a very happy and prosperous new year. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I am Saukartika from TSI and I would be the moderator for this session. Today we are presenting source code formatting presented by Viola. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the session, please click on the hand raise button so that you will be unmuted to proceed with the questions. Or you can enter your question in the chat box. Now, without further ado, we'll turn the time over to Viola, our senior software developer.
Yeah, thanks, Saukartika. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining. And as Saukartika says, I'm going to be talking about source code formatting in C and C++ in zTPFGI. I'm going to kickstart this webinar with a brief single PowerPoint slide just to introduce the topic. So first of all, what do I mean by source code formatting? And what I mean by it is the ability to actually format the layout of your source code so that it conforms to a specified standard. And what we've done in zTPFGI is we've added a feature which allows developers to do this very quickly and easily. And we've implemented it for C and C++ source code files, and it's available in version 1.3.7.0. So the next question is, why do we need source code formatting? And well, we all know that well-formatted code is easier to read and edit. And if your team or organization has a specific coding standard that all developers are expected to adhere to, this actually helps because any code that they write, they can quickly and easily adjust it to meet the coding standards that have been specified. So in the demo itself, I'm going to start off just going through the essentials, which is actually how to format your source code. And this is kind of what most developers need to know, but we also have some advanced options that some people might need. And then we'll finish with a question and answer session. Okay, let's just move straight on to the demo now. You can see I have zTPFGI already open, and in the editor area I have a CPP source code file. Now, what this source code file does isn't all that important. In fact, you'll see if you look at the outline, it's just got a very simple class and a few trivial functions. What's important to this particular topic is the actual layout of the code. So when I actually format this file, you're going to see the code jump around a little bit. So what I'm going to start off doing is I'm just going to draw your attention to a few aspects of the layout just so you know what to look out for once it's formatted. So one thing to draw your attention to is you'll see that these includes, they're not in any particular order. And when I format this, the style that I'm using to format it, you'll see these rearrange themselves into alphabetical order. Another thing to look out for is for the classes and functions and etc. You'll see that the opening bracket is on its own line. You'll see this change as well, and you'll even see small functions with, say, only one line of code, or in the case of this destructor, no lines of code. You'll see them just shift all onto one line. So let's go ahead and format it. Now you'll notice that to format the code I don't need to select any code. This is to format the entire file. I just need to make sure my cursor is in the file. There's no sort of select all or anything like that to be done. And then I'll just right click, and from the pop-up menu we have a format code option, and you can see also there that we have a keyboard shortcut to make things even easier. So I'll hit format code. And you can see the jumping around. You can see that the includes have alphabetized themselves. They kind of stayed in their separate groups, but within their groups they're in alphabetical order. And you can see, as I said, that these opening brackets have moved upwards, and these short functions are on single lines. The other thing I want you to notice is, and this is something I hadn't actually told you, but if I go to my tagging options just to show you, I have automatic tagging turned on. And what you'll notice is, obviously, when we reformat the code, we're not going to want tags added to every line of code, so that just wouldn't be good. So obviously, reformatting the code isn't going to affect your tagging. And of course we can do undo, redo, and save the file to save our changes. I'm just going to hit undo so that I can show you the next thing that I wanted to show you. And the next thing I wanted to show you is that you can actually, I mean, I showed you how to format the entire file. The other thing you can do is actually just select whatever code you want to format in the file, and then you can just format that section. So I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut this time. I'm going to say Control-Shift-F, and there you can see that just this class declaration has been formatted and everything else has been left as it is. That is actually how you format code, and you can see that it's incredibly simple. One question you might be asking is, well, you know, how does it know what the format needs to be? And what we have is we have a default format. So the default format is defined by the administrator for your organization or team, and that's defined in the zTPFGI configuration files. Now, if the administrator hasn't defined anything, then we have our own internal default that we kind of fall back to. So, so that's how it knows how to format it. So now that we've gone over the basics, let's take a look at the advanced options. So I'm just going to open up zTPFGI options, and I've gone to the code format options page. It's kind of remembered where I was last time I was here, and in the code format options you can see two sections: select a style and create and load a custom style. Now obviously I haven't created and loaded a custom style, and this file there's no file selected for that, and you can see that for select a style I was using the default. Now if I drop down the selection, you'll see that aside from the default, we have 5 predefined styles and a custom option, which I'll come to in a bit. So it's fairly simple. Each of these styles might differ subtly, and you can actually choose a predefined style as needed. And for example, if I chose Mozilla, we actually have a little description to help you out if you change. So here's Chromium, and obviously if I then go ahead and click OK, let's do Chromium just to show you. I'll click OK, and now if I do Control-Shift-F, there might be some subtle differences. I think looking at Chromium, it's kind of similar. The difference is that even though the opening bracket goes on the same line as the name and the type, it doesn't put the entire function on the same line if it's a short function. So let's hit back again, and let's go back to the options. Okay, so that's that. So so selecting a style other than the default is as simple as choosing one of these 5 predefined styles. But there's also the custom. If we wanted to define a custom style, we can select custom. And what happens now that I've selected a custom style is this browse button has become available, and that allows me to browse to my own predefined style file. So the files that define the styles are YAML files, and I can write my own YAML file and I can upload it, and that will become my style. Now that sounds on the face of it a little bit difficult, but what I want to show you next is that it's not, and that it's actually incredibly easy to do. At the moment, I don't have a style file, so I'm going to actually create one and then load it into zTPFGI. So to do that, we have a link here which links to a style configurator tool. It's external to zTPFGI, but it's a web-based tool which is useful for designing C formatting styles. And so I'm going to click on this, and you'll see that I get a little confirmation telling me just what I've just told you, that we're going out of zTPFGI into a browser. So I'll just click yes to that, and you can see that this is opened up in my browser now. And I'm not going to sort of go into detail on this because obviously it's not a TSI tool, but I'm just going to give the basics. You can load a pre-existing file, edit it and resave it, or you can create a style from scratch, as I'm about to do now. So on the left-hand side, there's a whole list of possible settings, and each one has possible values. And then on the right-hand side, the sample code. And you can edit this sample code if you wanted to, because it might be that the sample code that's here doesn't cover the code scenario that you're wanting to edit. So you can put a bit of code in of your own and change that. And the great thing about this is that you don't actually have to start from scratch. What you do is you design a base style, and then you just edit the base style. So as an example, I'm going to show you, here's the based on style. So you don't actually have to know any YAML. You don't need to write YAML. This is totally WYSIWYG. So I'm going to choose Mozilla. And you can see immediately the code on the right-hand side changed to show the Mozilla formatting. And then I'm just going to edit a couple of things. What I think I'll do is I'll put a few spaces in between all the parentheses. So let's just scroll down a bit and find where the parentheses, spaces in parentheses. Let's put spaces in parentheses. So I'll set that to true, and let's pop some in square brackets as well. We might as well. Okay, and you can see immediately in our sample code the change that I've made is reflected in the sample code. And when I'm happy with how my new code format looks, I'm going to hit save. Now I'm going to save it as a YAML file, and I'm just going to pop it on my desktop. Okay, so that's been created and popped onto my desktop. So now I'm going to return to zTPFGI, and I'm going to browse to my desktop. And I'm going to find that file, there it is, and click open. And you can see it's been put into here as expected, and I'm going to click OK. Now, when I click OK, that particular style format is copied to my zTPFGI configuration folder. So it's not like I need to keep that on my desktop or anything. I can just go ahead and I can just delete that if I want to. And you'll see that in zTPFGI, the actual path for my selected custom file has changed to be in my actual configuration. So just to see that at work, I've got select a custom style, therefore I'm using the custom style that I've defined. And if I come in here and if I say Control-Shift-F, I've now got a few spaces. Let's just go to somewhere here. Here's set count has spaces within the parentheses here. So that's, I mean, that again, you see how simple it was. I actually just created my own style, loaded it into GI. So the last thing I wanted to show you, if I go back to the options, is that you can actually edit the URL. So if you have your own style configurator tool that you need to use, if there's something better, you just come in here, edit the URL, and then the link will point to that. And if you wanted to revert to our recommended tool, you can reset your URL by clicking this Reset URL link here. So you can see how simple this is to use, and the great thing about having the YAML file to use is that you can create a YAML file and you can even distribute it to the rest of your team members or whatever. So that's all I was intending to demo. So I guess we can move to any questions.
Viola, there's a question from Tim Link, and the question is, how easily can a custom style be implemented on an enterprise level of users of zTPFGI? Or is a custom style only easily feasible for each individual user to create their own?
Well, if we were talking about distributing it across everybody, you'd really be talking about
Okay, shall I repeat?
Yes. Sorry, I'm just getting my, yeah. So you're saying create a custom style and then make it available
on the enterprise level. How easily can a custom style be implemented on an enterprise level of users, or is it custom style only easily feasible for each individual user to create their own?
Well, I think at the moment the custom style is sort of a user can create their own, but it would be distributable. Maybe that the ability to do that is something we need to look into, though. I'm just making a note of that as a item as well.
Okay, Viola.
Are there any more questions?
We can hear you.
Good. Yeah, we in our main configuration file we have the default code format style, and the company could put the global format style there for everybody into our main configuration file, and it would be read for everyone. So they would just need to use the default style, and then that would apply a common style to them, you know, and then of course they could customize it if they wanted to, but the default style would be whatever you wanted people to have by default. We actually read in a list of lines. Okay. Well, okay, we'll have to double check and see if I'm right.
Yeah, yeah. But it's something, I guess, it's a good question.
Ella, there's a question from David Rosen, and David Rosen, I have unmuted you. You can proceed with your questions.
Hey, good morning. I was curious to the impact to the comments of a particularly well-commented program when you do a reformat, especially in some of the examples you used where it changed a three-line procedure into a one-line procedure.
Yes, that's a good question, actually. Yeah, so the question is, if you've got multiple comments on, say, a one-line procedure, and then that all gets put onto one coding line, and then it all gets compacted into one line. I guess what happens to the comments?
Can you demo that? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I've not demoed it before, so so let's see what happens. This might be something that we do actually need to look into.
One other aspect, at the company I work for, there are coding Nazis out there that get annoyed when you move past card column 80. We're still living in an 80 column world, and there's no restriction to allow people to comment past card column 80. I was curious what you do with comments that exceed 80.
This is a C++ feature. Do they still have that restriction even in C++?
Well, it's not a restriction. It's a it's an Orwellian way that they want people to code in the 1960s format of an 80-column card.
Okay.
And my friends are now hammering me saying it's not really 80, it's 72.
Okay. Okay, that's actually I think something that hasn't been considered.
I personally, I don't want it considered. I'd like to let the programmer do what they want, but there are others around me that disagree with my point of view.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'd say about this feature in general is that it's to help people to adhere to recommended styles, but we actually use a tool called CLang, which formats the code according to specific styles. So when they're and so it's those predefined styles and variations thereof is what we're supporting.
Well,
so
like
in other words, there's nothing sort of which is really that's specific to people's styles. You know, we go by Mozilla, LLVM, Google, and these other standards, and then allow you to sort of edit it a little if needed.
No, I'm confident you guys are doing it right.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try out this comment thing, and I guess it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, it will.
But just bear in mind that this is kind of we're using the open source CLang tool.
Okay. All right. Very good. Can you, as you terminate that comment, this is my comment. Can you add a second comment that has greater than 100, please?
You mean just on a different line or something?
Please, yeah.
Well, I've got a tag in there. I've got automatic tagging
fine.
turned on. So okay.
I'd be curious to know the card column my tag just went into.
Yes. I can force it to be more than it's supposed to be just by putting a few spaces in.
Perfect.
There you go. All right. I don't know. I seriously don't know what's going to happen here, but I'll hit Control-Shift-F. And I guess we can see. There you go. Oh, hang on, that's because that's still Mozilla. We want a format that puts it onto one line. Hang on. So let's go to LLVM. That does, and then let me just put that across a certain amount, and then I'll do Control-Shift-F. Okay. Oh, LLVM still doesn't put it all on one line. Sorry about this. I thought it did.
It's doing fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay, let's. Which one puts it all on one line? Then let's try.
I thought it was default.
All right. Well, yeah. Although I thought LLVM was my default. Okay. Let's try default. It probably isn't. Okay. That's third time lucky. Control-Shift-F. No, it's got to be a different one.
Okay.
So one last try, and then how about?
As soon as we get a hold of the version, we're going to be trying it. So.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's make this the last attempt, and then I guess as soon as you got it, you can give us feedback. Okay. So let's move that my tag across again. I suspect it'll just put it all on the same line, including the comment. Oh, I don't know. I don't know which one's doing it then.
That's okay. I understand. Good try, though.
So, yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, you offer feedback, I guess, when you've got the version.
All right. Thank you for trying.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Let me just. Are there any more questions from anyone?
This is Ed. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I double-checked the code. We do read multiple style lines from the ZGI setup.ini, not just the name of a style.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Therefore, we could it could be customized for everyone who gets that INI file.
That's great. Yeah. So from the first question about the enterprise level customization, yes, that can be done, is the answer. Yeah, thanks a lot, Ed. Thanks for looking that up. Great.
You're welcome.
Are there any more questions?
Viola, there's a question. I don't know whether it's a question or a suggestion. Bob says that it isn't moving it to a line because of the comment.
Ah, that could be the case, couldn't it? Yes, that's interesting. So maybe, so perhaps it doesn't move it to the line if there's a comment. Yeah, okay, that's a good thought. Yeah, great, thank you. That solved that one.
Thank you, Bob.
One thing I want to emphasize is that because we are using an open source tool, the customizations that can be done are what that tool allows to be done as well. Just I wanted to emphasize that as well. And it is, of course, a very good tool, excellent tool. Okay, so back to you, Karthika, again.
Thanks, Viola. It's just a gentle reminder, if you have any questions, please click on the hand raise button so that you will be unmuted to proceed with the question, or please enter your question in the chat box.
Any more questions at all, Karthika?
It looks like we have answered all the questions, Viola.
Okay. Well, thank you, in that case, everybody. Thank you for your suggestions as well.
Thank you, Viola. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. A short survey will open up. You can specify topics for the upcoming webinar session. We will send you webinar follow-up email within a week's time, which will contain the link of this recorded session. If in case of any queries, contact Customer Support Executive or write to productsinfo@tpfsoftware.com. Thanks again for joining us today, and we have webinars followed on second Wednesday of every month. We'll see you next time. Thank you.